Before the review gets started, a word of warning. Some of the images that you will see could be disturbing to you. What Happened deals with mental health issues and suicide. If you aren't comfortable being exposed to such themes, please close the video. And if you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, there is a link in the description that leads to helplines worldwide. The world is a better place with you in it. There are people who can help. What Happened is a psychological first-person horror game. The thing is, it isn't so much a game as it is a story of mental illness, social alienation, suicidal ideation, loss, and most importantly, hope. And What Happened is best reviewed in two parts, the game and the story. As a game, What Happened revolves primarily around limited exploration. As Styles, you wake up in a high school bathroom stall at the beginning of an acid trip. From that point on, you'll explore various hallucinogen-fueled variations of the high school in an attempt to understand what happened in Styles' life that pushed him to where he is now. For the most part, you'll be walking through the halls, exploring the rooms, and opening drawers to find notes and photographs that provide clues or codes to unlock doors. There are some puzzle elements here and there, but they mostly consist of finding light bulbs to activate lamps. Sometimes you need to find colored light bulbs, and that's about as complex as things get. Now, as I played, I got the feeling that the emphasis isn't to challenge you at all, but to make you wander from room to room as if you were really in a drug-induced stupor. Of all the games I've played in my life, What Happened is likely the one that warrants its epilepsy warning the most. The game is filled with various visual effects that are meant to represent the effects of acid and hallucinations. At moments, the screen will be filled with red, green, and blue hues. Objects will distort, sometimes violently expanding and retracting. Ghostly flashbacks will appear on your screen as you walk, lights will flash, pulsate, distort, and remain on the screen for short periods of time. All that and more combine to create what most people imagine an acid trip looks like. Now, I have no experience with hallucinogens, but I have to say that the visual effects checked all the boxes on my acid trip cliché list. They also serve to make you question what exactly is real and what is just a figment of your imagination. The game makes great use of its spaces and the ability of video games to play with reality, to create and modify anything. It happens that you'll walk into a room, turn around only to find that the door you came in through has disappeared. In another area, you find yourself in a small room without any obvious doors and only a ceiling lamp hanging in front of you. Switching the light off and on again makes the walls crumble, revealing a slightly larger room. I thoroughly enjoyed these kinds of moments where the game embraced its psychedelic nature and played with the world around it. I was always curious and excited to see what would be thrown at me next. Where What Happened trips up is that the game is more interested in telling you a story than anything else. It's very linear and prods you to go in the direction it wants you to. There's no real incentive to walk into every room apart from the possibility of finding a key item to advance. Most rooms are devoid of any stimulus whatsoever. And it's a real shame because they have some really unique settings that I would have liked to see the game expand upon. Overall, it's a walking simulator and the fun of exploring quickly grows stale. It also felt like the game went on for much longer than it should have. I counted about 3 times where I thought for sure that I had reached the end, but it kept on going. Now, I'd like to give the developers the benefit of the doubt and say that perhaps the intention was to draw parallels between the game and mental health issues. And by that I mean, it can sometimes feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, only for you to get sucked right back in. Another important thing to keep in mind is that What Happened is marketed as a horror game, but don't go into it expecting an experience like Outlast or Made of Sker. It does have its tenser and more disturbing moments, but they are few and far between. The real horror is in the game's themes. Mental health issues are inherently terrifying because of how insidious they are. They're scary because they can take over a person's mind and never let go. They're horrifying because everybody is susceptible given the right circumstances. And What Happened offers a glimpse into how fragile the human psyche can be and puts you in the shoes of a highly vulnerable person who is close to ending his own life. And as you advance through the game, there's a good chance that you'll feel useless because you only steer Styles from point to point and have no input in his decisions. The game's only real enemy is Styles himself, or, more specifically, the mind. At times helpful, but mostly antagonistic, the mind is always with Styles and doesn't hesitate to berate him and remind him that he's supposedly alone and unloved. The areas created by the mind are far more interesting and anxiety-inducing than the high school itself. Of particular note is the area where the floors, walls, and ceilings are made up entirely of Styles' corpses. Now, whenever the mind drags you into a location it created, the game's themes become incredibly explicit. How quickly the mind goes from assisting you to insulting and threatening you is a testament to how insidious the human mind can be. Now, what happened deals with very important but also very heavy issues. Chief among them is mental health and suicide. Developer Genius Slackers states that their goal is to give players a different, more empathetic perspective in regard to individuals suffering mental health issues after finishing the game. Now, it's very brave of them to tackle such a sensitive issue because there is a fine line between doing it tastefully or just making an insulting product. All in all, I feel that Genius Slackers did a fine job with the subject matter. In all my hours with the game, nothing ever struck me as being insulting or in bad taste. Quite to the contrary, I cared more and more for Styles as the game went on, and I learned more about the various events that pulled him down into his own dark abyss. I felt bad for him, for what he had to endure, for what was happening to him, and I wanted to help him. But overall, what happened isn't really a game. It's a story told via the medium of video games. And as a story, it's a cautionary tale and does the job fine. As a game, unfortunately, there's no real gameplay, it's a walking simulator. That being said, the creativity that went into this is incredible, and I can't wait to see more from Genius Slackers. But don't go into what happened expecting a horror game or any sort of real action. This is a creative but introspective game that just has you walk from point to point,